Welcome to the Strathroy-Caradoc All Candidates Debate for Ward 2 on Rogers Television. Your chance to learn more about the candidates running for this position in our municipality. We thank Rogers TV for this opportunity and Strathroy United Soccer Club for the use of this venue. This debate will be broadcast starting September 26th on Rogers TV and will be available 24/7 on YouTube as well.
And now for the rules. We will start tonight's session with opening remarks. Each candidate will have 1 minute to make their statement. That'll be followed by question and answers from the moderators. Each candidate that was asked the question gets 1 minute, and everyone who wishes gets 30 seconds to make their piece on that topic. That will be followed by closing remarks, and again, each candidate gets 1 minute. So to start, from left to right, let me introduce the candidates. We have Brian Derbyshire, Sheri Faccenda, Sandi Hipple, Vayan, Terry Whalen, and Greg Willsie. And we'll start with Brian's opening statement.
Hi, my name is Brian Derbyshire. Just to reiterate again, I'm a third-generation farmer on the same land for over 100 years. So I'm committed to Caradoc, committed to Strathroy-Caradoc, Ward 2. I would like to try to preserve some farmland, help with development, and just keep our community a community. I want Mount Bridges to grow. I'd like the rural area to stay rural. Thanks.
Great, thank you very much. And now Sheri.
Hi, Sheri Faccenda. I'm Ward 2 running for councillor position. I've been a Mount Bridges resident for 30 plus years. I am also PTA with Caradoc Public School, and I'm very much involved in the community. There's a lot of standing communication issues between Mount Bridges itself and Strathroy, and being that Strathroy-Caradoc is one united, I'd like to try to bring those back to common ground, making communications more available for everybody and all on the same page.
Thank you very much, Sheri. Next up is Sandi Hipple.
Hi, I am Sandi Hipple. I am a fourth-generation Caradoc resident, but I'm the last one in my generation. I am not a farmer. However, we have lived here for many, many years, and I have 3 sons that have gone through almost everything in Mount Bridges possible, every hockey, baseball, soccer team. We love our community, something fierce. But what I've been working for the last 4 years as a counselor, and it is such an incredible journey. There are a lot of bumps in the road, but there are a lot of gratifications when you see some amazing things come about. And anyone that knows me knows that I work really hard. I answer every question, every email, phone call, text, and I'm always there for you. And if you ever need anything to work hard at, if you need me to work hard at something, I'll be the person to do it. So I would like you to vote for me again. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Vayan.
How's it going? My name's Vayan. I'm a 4th generation of my family in Mount Bridges. I've got 5th generation twins here as well in Mount Bridges. Our family's been here since 1946. I'm a farmer in the area there as well. And I just want to make sure that Mount Bridges stays a community and a place that I loved growing up, and maintain that special feeling that it has. Thanks.
Thank you. Next up is Terry Whalen.
Thank you. Good evening, moderators, fellow candidates, and to those of you watching at home. My name is Terry Whalen. I've lived in Mount Bridges with my wife and 2 children, and we've been here for the past 4 years, and we've truly enjoyed living here during this time. When you're new to a town and have young children, I always find the best way to meet people is to get involved in the community. I started coaching within the Mount Bridges hockey organization, Go Cougars. I have coached both hockey in Mount Bridges and lacrosse in Strathroy, and I've met many amazing people along the way. I'm looking to give back to the community by serving them as a councillor in Ward 2. We're an area that has sustained significant growth the past few years, and I would like to help make sure that we have the infrastructure to be able to sustain that growth. There are many reasons for me to join this race tonight, and some will be discussed over the course of this evening. Having a 7-year-old and a 14-year-old is important to me that they have options in town to keep them busy. A thriving recreation center that serves residents of all ages is important for all of us. Thriving and rejuvenated downtown is also very important. As your elected Ward 2 councillor, I look forward to serving you in the coming election. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And lastly, we'll have Greg Willsie.
Hello, Strathroy-Caradoc. For those of you I haven't met, I'll tell you a little bit about my past. I grew up on a farm near Grand Bend and started working in the family business at a young age. In 2009, I moved here with my family and purchased our first home. As my career and my family grew, I found myself specializing in end-of-line automation and packaging equipment. My experience and dedication have resulted in successful projects across North America. I'm now an associate partner in an automation firm, working with clients that range from small 5 to 10 person shops to multinational corporations. Over the pandemic, I decided to invest in myself by attaining my MBA from the Ivy School of Business here at UWO. I'm continuing my involvement with Ivy by volunteering to serve as an entrepreneur in residence for Ivy's newly launched Masters of Science in Management program. I'm happy to have this opportunity to discuss my platform and ideas for the future of the municipality. In short, my plan is to work with the rest of the council to plan for the future and enable us as a municipality to be less reactive.
Great, thank you all. We are going to get into the question portion of the debate now. And the first question is about the Mount Bridges Arena. And starts with Brian down there at the end. Do you know where the progress on building an arena in Mount Bridges is? And what would you do to help move the project along while keeping the community engaged?
No, I don't know exactly where we are in the process. I know that it is saved at this point, the old arena. I don't know whether we're building a new one. I don't know whether they're just going to make changes to this one. I'm not too sure. If it were up to me, what I would do is I would twin that pad, use the old one and build probably more of a community center with a new pad that can seat enough for the junior D team that's there. That would be my idea.
Anyone else who wants to weigh in? And we'll take you next, Sandi.
Thank you, Lorena. I can tell you that I'm on the building committee for the new arena, and it is in the stages where we have an architect that is doing various drawings to see where exactly it could fit, what you could fit in it. We're trying to be cost effective while providing everything we can to the community. And that's pretty much all I can tell you at this point, but we're going to get another arena, and it's going to be great.
Okay, Brian, wait in first, and then we'll come back to you. Okay.
We don't know where it is though, right? Where it's going. Like, there is no answers there. And is there any way we could do something like what Dorchester did, where they just engulfed their old arena, put the new one, so then it actually has 2 pads?
I think the location's important, so we'll just get the location if Sandi knows that, and then we'll go back to you if that's all right. Okay, thank you.
So we don't have an actual location. We've looked at a couple of areas in and around behind the arena, not on the soccer fields, in case people are wondering if we're taking soccer fields away. That's not what we're doing, but it is around behind near the community center, but I can't tell you exactly because I truly don't know at this point, because we're looking at size, and size is an issue depending on where we're putting it, right?
Okay, and Terry, go ahead.
So I've been here for 4 years, as I mentioned earlier, and I think the rumor mill on the arena has been running rampant for the 4 years that I've been here. I've heard multiple locations discussed. I've heard that I live in the Woods Edge community. I've heard that it's going to go in across from the Ford dealership and that there is plans in place or drawings up in place for that. And then I've heard somewhere out by Park House and then also in behind where the arena is now. I think it's important that we do have a new arena and a facility that's going to suit the community now and in years to come as well.
Would anyone else like to talk about that? No? We'll move on to the next question then.
And this has to do with investments, much like an arena. Investments in Strathroy versus Caradoc. What would you do, and this question goes to Sheri, what would you do about many in smaller or rural communities like Melbourne, Campbellvale, Delaware, and Mount Bridges feeling left out when compared to the much larger community of Strathroy?
Well, yeah, that's when it comes down to communications and, trying to get back into having the small town halls that we used to have when hot topics were coming on. People have felt that they're being passed over at times, and everybody is deserving of the information that's out there. As long as you're a taxpayer within the area, your voice matters and your opinion matters, and that's why we're here. To advocate for people and to keep that in line. As far as like investing within the area, if I have this question right, like you're thinking funds itself? It's hard to gauge progress in between Campbellville, Delaware West, in those communities and stuff, as much as like where is the properties anymore. They're quite significantly small, and trying to pull things into Mount Bridges and bring amenities back in would help those other areas as well.
All right, thank you. And next up, Terry.
So I think that there is a large perception that, and speaking with many residents of the area as well in Ward 2, that there is a large perception that Strathroy does get the bulk of the tax dollars and that Mount Bridges and Melbourne and the other communities are left out of it. I don't know that that's entirely the case. I think that there are projects in mind for all the communities. It's just a matter of waiting for the tax dollars to be spread out a little bit more evenly.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Sandi?
Thank you. Communication is key. And let's be honest, that is what the communities need. And so each community within our municipality is its own entity. And while we want to make sure we invest in them very heavily so that they can produce exactly all of the amazing things that they can do, whether it's businesses or rural, but you still need to be able to give them and keep their identity at the same time.
All right, would anybody else like to jump in on this one? Yes, go ahead, Greg.
I'd like to actually see the investment be developed more along the lines of how many voters there are in the different municipalities and how those voters are placed. If you look at the numbers, we are close to 11,000 people who are registered voters in Strathroy and close to 6,000 in Ward 2. And when we look at some of the split for where the development's going, I think we need to do more of that in relation to where the tax dollars are coming from and look at that more than the registered voters. So I think that does mean more development in Mount Bridges and the smaller communities and less focused in Strathroy so that the smaller communities can stay alive.
Okay, thank you, Greg. And if that'll be all, we'll move on to the next one.
All right, and this is about fire hall allocation. Do you agree with amalgamating stations 2 and 3, which would mean a closure to station 3 in Melbourne, which some feel could potentially hamper response times for calls? So Sandi, you start with this one.
Thank you. This has been a hot topic, and when you look at all 3 of our stations, we have incredible men and women that are working for us, and their service to us is outstanding. So the last thing anybody wants to do is take away fire halls so that you don't have the response time to any emergency possible. But at the end of the day, there is a lot that we need to do with the fire halls. Our fire halls are not equipped to contain the vehicles. None of them have showers. They don't have areas, really great areas for their equipment. There is an overhaul that needs to be done, and in order to protect the men and women that are actually protecting us, we really need to look at the fire master plan and really go through the things that need to be done and do it cost effectively, but at the same time, knowing while we're growing, we need to move forward.
Okay, we're going to go to Brian first and then come back to Greg.
I wouldn't close either one of them. I believe both communities should have one. I would actually recommend that we build another station beside the police station here on this side of the tracks in Strathroy, which could also then service this end of Caradoc, which would also help with a response time. As for the showers, Melbourne is fully equipped with a male, female, bathrooms with showers.
Okay, Terry, go ahead.
I think that when it comes to fire services or police services or anything along the lines of that if you are amalgamating buildings, it all comes down to response time in the end. How long will it take for the volunteers to get to the new station? How long will it take them to equip the truck and get off to on site? So I think in the end, if it's going to be extra few minutes for them to get to a fire or get to an accident or whatnot, time matters in that aspect of it. So thanks.
Okay, we'll move on to our next question.
The next question moves on to agriculture. The County of Middlesex currently has a minimum size of 100 acres. Should the minimum size for lots be smaller? And this question goes to Sandi. Nope. Dale. Should minimum agricultural lot sizes be smaller than the current 100 acres allowed in Middlesex County?
Yeah, I think that we should be able to have smaller parcels in Middlesex County there. I know that a lot of farmers have a lot of issues with being able to develop their land there as well, as far as small farm-related operations. So I really think that we need to take the ropes off farmers and make sure that we protect that land, but give farmers the power to do what they want there as well.
Thank you. I'll go to Greg next.
I believe we should actually keep the limit the same. We already have different classifications of agriculture, whether they're A1, A2, or A3, which do allow for smaller holdings to have smaller land use or smaller land areas with smaller buildings on them. So we've already have those in there. They're already in place in the plan. And I believe if we need to protect our farms, we need to keep that size large so they don't get broken up to and turned into multi-residential units and smaller lots.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll go to Sandi.
Thank you. The large farms in our area are extremely important, but I do think if you could, if you look at something like 50 acres, it does actually give the opportunity to a younger family to come in and looking to buy. It's very, very difficult to buy something that is a lot bigger. And then it gives them a chance to perhaps do some other agriculture like vegetables and bring those types of things to the local market, which is really important in our community as well.
Great, thank you. First, we'll go to Brian.
Thanks. I do agree with Sandi. I think we should be down to 50-acre parcels. It would allow the smaller farmer to survive. I think you also should be able to put a secondary residence for either parents or children, because as a farming family, it's very hard for them to start out first off. If we could actually have a residence for them for the transfer of power.
All right, thank you, Brian. Next up is Greg.
And just again, talking about the smaller ones, I do believe that a smaller 50-acre farm would, with the equipment and everything you need to invest to make your farm work, I don't believe that you can invest. If 50 acres is all you can afford to have a farm, I don't believe a 50-acre farm is sustainable for actual full-time farming process. You would have to rent a significant amount of land if you're going to be able to do that.
Okay, Brian wants to go again.
I think if you go around the area, most farms are 50 acres. Really and truly, like we're not like areas outside of here where they have what they call blind lines, and they're actually like 200-acre parcels. We are from side road to side road 100-acre parcels that are normally split by a railway track, which then puts us down to 50, and unless you own the 50 beside it, that would make it 100.
All right, next up, we'll have Dale.
Yeah, I've got a 50-acre farm in the community, and we seem to make it work just fine.
All right, and if that'll be all, we'll move on to the next topic.
All right, the next topic is drawing business into the municipality. What is a council's role in drawing business to its communities? For example, a grocery store in Mount Bridges. And we'll start with Terry.
I think it's very important for council to look at different areas such as Mount Bridges for grocery stores, for other retail opportunities. I think with the amount of building that's going on in Mount Bridges right now, we have the opportunity to allow our residents to shop close to home. I think you're going to find that a lot of Mount Bridges residents will do most of their shopping outside, whether it be in Strathroy or in London or other areas of town. So I do think it's important for growth to occur, not just grocery stores, for other businesses in town to come into town in order to employ some of our residents as well. I mean, I spoke earlier about teenagers. There's not a lot of places in town for our teenagers to work. When you look outside of Tim Hortons or Andy's Pizza, for instance. So it'd be great to have some other opportunities for our seniors, for our children, to find some opportunities to work in the community as well.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to weigh in on that? Sandi, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, that's, when we have when we're putting up affordable or attainable housing, I mean, the one thing that we're lacking has always been a grocery store. We've got so many other incredible businesses, dental and medical and pharmacy and so on. But at the same time, yeah, that is definitely what we're lacking. And as we grow, it is definitely something that is necessary. So hopefully growth brings the grocery store and vice versa.
Go ahead, Brian.
I do think it would be nice if you could have a grocery store there. I do believe that Mount Bridges, and I'm not against it, I just think it's a bedroom community that most people do go out to work. We don't have industry there. I don't know whether we will get industry there, being that we're trying very hard to develop the 402 corridor in Strathroy for industry. So I don't know if when we try to invite businesses in, whether it's even an option to come to Mount Bridges.
Go ahead.
I think in order to be able to get a grocery store on Mount Bridges, we're going to need more people and more density. We have to go higher density housing, which will lead to more attainable housing. And we need more population density so that when the corporations do their math to figure out the footprint of the population that the grocery store is going to draw from, then Mount Bridges actually has that, and not only for grocery stores, but for other amenities that we may be looking for as well.
Okay, yep, go ahead, Sheri.
I totally agree with Greg there. The population still needs to grow within Mount Bridges itself. Just looking at our per capita of people compared to the per capita of Strathroy, Strathroy can fund a superstore, food basics, several different outlets that way. But we just haven't hit that growth point yet in Mount Bridges, and unfortunately, some people are totally against that as well. That it looks too much for them, it's too big, it's too fast, but it's one of those things that is a necessity.
All right, and if that's all for that topic, we'll move on to the next one, how we vote. The question is, for Greg, is the current ward system serving Strathroy-Caradoc well? Should it be expanded to have more wards to represent more communities, or removed to have the whole municipality's interest always on councillors' minds? Or should we even be entertaining the idea of reversing amalgamation and have two municipalities? That's to you, Greg.
I think that the current ward system, the way it works, it balances things out. It does leave the favor in the hands of Strathroy. But with that, it also allows some of the expertise that we get from the building of larger amenities in Strathroy to come in when we're building the infrastructure in Mount Bridges. For instance, we have some experience with doing the water system and the sewer in Strathroy, which could transfer over to Mount Bridges, which would help us as we're building facilities that we're actually doing at a smaller scale in Mount Bridges. We can learn from the mistakes we've made in Strathroy. If we were separate, I don't think we would get that. And there's also some synergies together with the fire and the police department that I think are getters. So I think the two wards, the way they are, I believe works well. What we need is a good mayor and a good deputy mayor to balance out the system to make sure that the whole municipality is represented.
All right, anybody else? Brian, go ahead.
I myself believe that really and truly, I think it's hard to develop two places like we're trying to do. We're trying to push Strathroy for growth this way and the other way. We're trying to do the same thing with Mount Bridges. Mount Bridges is going to need more infrastructure, as like sewers, water, this, that. It might be better off for us to divide and maybe Strathroy go with Adelaide Metcalfe.
All right, and next we'll have Sheri.
I lived in Mount Bridges when it was only Caradoc Township at the time, and did realize like how much there wasn't in the community. I myself grew up not being able to work a job there because there wasn't infrastructure for amenities and everything else. My parents are still there in town, and sooner or later that septic system is going to fail on their home, and infrastructure has been promised for a number of years, and I'd like to see like what the plans are for moving forward on something along those lines.
All right, and next we'll have Terry.
I agree. I think that there can always be an opportunity to look at the different wards that we have right now and see if there is a possibility to change it, make things different. I think that in the end that Mount Bridges is quite a wide open ward. There's lots of territory in that ward as well. So I think that there's opportunities to look at changes to either Strathroy or Mount Bridges at the same time.
Thank you very much.
Okay, big issue. Affordable housing is next. Do you think the current council has had enough of a focus on getting affordable housing built? How would you address the great need for low-income housing, but also housing and rentals in general? So, Brian, this is for you to start.
So we're on low-income housing. I don't think that they've done a bad job. Like, I do think they've tried their best to get what we can. I don't know whether it's low-income housing that's coming in front of the arena in Mount Bridges. I'm not too sure exactly whether it's geared to income, what it is, but it should not be there. Again, we'll go back to there's no grocery stores, there's no jobs, if they don't have transportation, there's no way out of there. So we've put this thing in place here, and I think it's supposed to be affordable housing, but we've almost set them up for failure. So that project there, in my opinion, should have come down here to Strathroy, where they could get a job, be close to groceries, be close to some amenities that they're going to need. You know, going forward, what we do with it from here, I don't believe there should be any homeless. Like, I do think we can do a better job, but where we do it and how we do it I guess I'd have to see once I got in.
Okay, Terry, you were next.
Yeah, I think I agree with Brian on certain points there. I think that we need to understand exactly what we're considering affordable housing. When I first moved here, they were building the units beside the left-hand side of the arena, the townhouses there, and they were referred to as somewhat affordable housing, or in my opinion, what that was. And now in that area, you can't rent one of those locations for less than $2,400 a month. So is that affordable? I don't know. I think we need more infrastructure in town in order to sustain affordable housing, because I agree with Brian, we're leaving those people hung out to dry for that.
Okay, Sheri, you were next.
So affordable or attainable housing is definitely needed within the Mount Bridges area, irregardless of where direction that people are coming from, whether they're coming from the rural roots and they can't stay on the farm anymore, but they don't necessarily want to have to leave their community to have to go live somewhere else. It's more important that if they still have friendships and relationships and family living within the area that can still help assist them, it's easier for them to be closer proximities than to be moved to a whole nother town all entirely.
Okay, Greg.
I believe that we should look at more density. The same thing that we said before when we're looking for options for more commercial and to support it. We need more density in Mount Bridges. More density generally means smaller units that are more affordable. We don't necessarily need to be geared to income or low income housing, but I believe we need to have housing that's available for all people at all different stages of their life, whether they're townhomes or apartments, and then maybe more single-family homes behind that, but that will also drive our commercial, which will give those people jobs in the town as well.
Okay, back to you, Brian.
I agree Mount Bridges does need it. I did, like, for somewhere like that, but if we're talking about low income or affordable, you know, there has to be some way for these people to dig themselves out of those situations. I feel like putting it there with nothing for them to do, we've left them no option but to sit there in what they're in. You know, that's...
Okay, I think we're done with that. No, okay, go ahead. Yep.
So I also think that, you know, when you have affordable housing, there needs to be some sort of transportation service for those people living in affordable housing. Not all of them will have cars. It's not necessarily easy to bike to places when you need to, so some sort of a bus system. I've heard that there is a bus system that comes into Mount Bridges, although I have not seen it once. But I really hope that if we do start looking at affordable housing, that we look at some of the other infrastructure items to help support it as well.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to the next topic, which is transparency. This question is for Sheri. Where do you think the perception of some that there is less transparency on how decisions are made by council comes from, and how would you try to change that perception?
Like I had said once before, I do believe like trying to bring back more town halls that are hot to topic to get people aware of what is being discussed and what's going on. We used to offer them all the time, and we've just kind of gotten away from that. It's one of those that you get the most kind of bang for your buck with population if you're all discussing the same topic at once, not multiple topics. It would help to keep the lines of communication flowing a lot easier. And plus you would also get the ideas back from the public themselves.
All right, next we'll go to Brian.
I think on transparency, I'd like to know when we come to boards and committees, how you get on the board and the committee, whether it's appointed, whether who's asked, how you get on these things. I mean, there's obviously 7 or 8 of us new running in Ward 1 and Ward 2 for councillors, right? I don't know how many have been asked to be on a board or sit near a board or even speak about it. You know, I know I sure as haven't, and I ran for mayor last time and councillor for this time, and no one's approached me on any board.
All right, thank you. Next up is Greg.
I'd like to see more transparency on how some of the numbers and figures and costs for the municipality are figured out. I know we've heard there was a few questions asked when prices were talked about for the Queen Street sewers and all the sewers across the municipality, not just Queen Street. But we're asking for transparency. We've asked for questions on how those numbers were calculated. And I think if we were to show how those numbers were calculated and what went behind it, it will go a long way to help the feelings of the residents of Strathroy-Caradoc.
All right, thank you. Next up, we'll go with Terry.
I think transparency is important as well. I think that a lot of the issues that we're seeing in the last year in Mount Bridges could have been avoided with a little bit more transparency. Not necessarily on the councillor's part, but I think that with transparency, you get the trust of your constituents, and with the trust of your constituents, you get there seems to be more communication that way. So I think that town halls is not a bad idea as well, and I think that with more transparency, you get more trust from your constituents.
Okay, thank you. Sheri, go ahead. Or Sheri, sorry, Sandi.
Thank you. Communication is key. In everything I've ever done, communication is key. We need to talk to the public. We need to make sure that we get all the facts and everything out there. But the thing is, we want the public to talk to us too. So the phone calls and the texts and the emails and everything that I get and everything that I respond to is honest and open communication. And perhaps we just need to find a better way so that we can do that with the public and ourselves.
All right, Brian.
Sandy, I'm just going to address that. I phoned you twice about 2 different issues. One, raw human sewage being dumped next to our cattle pasture, and the cost, the development fee to put a house on I didn't hear back from you on either issues. You heard me, you never got back. No phone call, no email.
Okay, go ahead.
Actually, I appreciate you saying that because that actually is good for me to hear. So actually what I did do, what I should have done at the time, because there was a lot of things going on then with not just your farm, there was 3 other farms in your area. And actually what I did ask is a couple of staff members to reach out and contact you because I personally cannot fix or answer those questions until I go to the staff. And because that's kind of what their job is. So then my job is to get them to come to see you. And I apologize that that shouldn't have happened. And I didn't realize that it never that it never went through.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I do appreciate that. I did just want to bring that up because that was, and to be downright honest with you, I don't know where you stand on raw human sewage being dumped in our municipality, but I would say no to this all the time. And what I was told from that is, it's actually up to the Ministry of the Environment. So I don't know how we can't write a bylaw that says no dumping of raw human sewage. Sorry, not to get off topic, but.
That's okay. That's a good example. Okay, we'll go to the next topic now.
Yes, another big one, taxes. All right, so how important, this will be Sandi first, how important is it to you to keep taxes low in Strathroy-Caradoc? Where can we save on spending? What is your plan moving forward?
That's a great question. And it's actually a really complicated question because, I mean, would we all like to keep taxes low? Absolutely. I myself holy smokes, that would be really important to me, and it is really important to me. But at the same time, we have a lot of projects on the go, and there is a lot of infrastructure being built. There's a lot of things being done and a lot of plans in the work for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And moving forward, we do need plans to be able to be cost effective, but at the same time be able to get all of these things in our communities that are necessary, and to keep our communities, well, to keep Ward 1, Ward 2, Melbourne, Campbellville, to keep all of them, their identity safe, if that's the right word. I'm not sure that's the correct word. But, that's something that all of council needs to sit down and work on together. Me as one person can't fix that, but that is something that we all sit down and we all work together on.
Okay, yep, go ahead. Terry?
I think with respect to taxes, it is a bit of a hot button issue these days. The cost of living for everything has gone up these days. The interest rates have gone up, cost of food, cost of gas, everything has gone up over the last couple of years since the pandemic. So I think that we need to work and figure out a way to keep taxes as low as possible for the next foreseeable future, and maintain the infrastructure projects that we're still currently working on.
Okay, we'll go to Brian first.
I do believe we have gotten ourselves in a little bit of trouble here, relying heavily on development fees and government grants and stuff to kind of keep us moving forward. I believe at this point, our property taxes that we pay only make up 48% of our total cost. So our property taxes aren't even covering 50% of what we're spending. So if housing dries up, we could be in real trouble.
And Greg, go ahead.
I think that with property taxes, there's a few things that we'll have to look at. One of the things we need to look at efficiency that we're having within the municipality. I think there's a lot of probably duplication and siloing that we're seeing in a lot of larger corporations that we could probably look at to streamline the processes that we're getting to not only get faster responses for the constituents, but also better results for the services. I also think that we need to be aware of the 2022 MPAC update that's coming up and how that's going to affect our tax rate.
Okay, we'll leave taxes behind. I wish we really could.
Next up is the role of staff versus council. So this question goes to Dale. Yes, Dale. What is the role of the very qualified senior staff in helping council make decisions? And is council independent enough when making those decisions?
Yeah, I think council should be making a lot more decisions. Just going back to communication with staff. Personally, I've had issues getting a hold of staff. I know that a lot of other residents have had issues to actually get a hold of staff. I think issues that have to do with privacy should be, dealt with, on kind of a smaller level. But as far as big issues, I think that council should definitely be taking care of those.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we'll go to Greg.
I believe that this comes down to transparency as well. There's a lot of things where staff members are making decisions and then bringing things to council. And what I'm seeing when I watch the meeting is I'm not seeing council challenge the staff on why they're making those decisions and if they're the best decisions and if there's other options. I'm seeing a lot of that that's missing. I believe there should be more transparency and more communication between council and staff to make sure that we are doing the right decision and that that decision will be the best one for the municipality as it goes forward.
All right, thank you very much. We'll go to Sandi next.
Thank you. I am just going to put it out there that when you are watching Zoom or you're sitting in on a council meeting, that's not the first time that we've spoken to staff. So, and I'm not saying this on every level, but if I have a septic issue in a farm or a sewer issue in a farm, I go out with a staff member and in my rubber boots, and I go through, and then I talk to the drainage superintendent, and I talk to at least 2 or 3 other people before I ever get to council. And And then what you hear at council is the remnants of that at the end.
Okay, we'll go to Brian next.
I guess my thoughts on it are, I don't think it's the councillors' faults. Like, I really think they are trying their best. I think when we put together boards and committees and we put staff on it and this, that, we expect that they're coming back with the best, most cost-efficient way for us to do things. So then it kind of just gets laid in front of them and says, here's what's done, let's vote on it, right? So I wouldn't particularly say it's council's fault for not. I think what we need to do is have a different process and maybe get more people involved in it.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? All right, we'll move on to the next topic.
And the next topic is water bills. Well, some people seem to be a bit confused about switching back to the municipality collecting the water and sewer bills and having 2 months on it instead of 1. Is there a way to communicate better and help people compare past bills and their water usage? Can this lesson be applied elsewhere, possibly? Terry, you're first.
So I'll admit I was one of the ones that were shocked by my water bill until I actually called and got some explanation on it and figured it was 2 months. Although it did take, I didn't find out from our Integris that the actual water was switching over to Strathroy-Caradoc until about a month before it actually did. So yeah, a little more communication on that aspect of it would have been great to know that. The rates haven't changed. The rates are the same as we were paying at Integris, so there's no difference there. And I think there's just some confusion with people going from a 1 month to a 2 month bill. And it was all, I think that most people that would call or check in with the water department would know that it's pretty much the same as what we've been getting all along, so.
Anyone else? Brian, go ahead.
What was the point of switching from Integris to their own billing?
Sandi, yeah, I guess you're best to answer that question.
So Integris moved their head office to Chatham, and basically what happened is they had a skeleton staff here. So the municipality always had them contracted to do the billing and et cetera, but because they no longer had the human resources to do this, it just made sense to switch over. And it's always been our utility. It's just the municipality had paid them to read the meters and do the billing.
Okay, sorry. Anyone else? All right, one more question, at least one.
Perfect. All right, we are going to move back to the topic of housing specifically, and this question goes to Greg. The Caradoc Housing Corporation. It has a board consisting of the mayor and senior municipal staff. The municipality's Community and Cultural Services Department works with that corporation to manage Parkview Manor, a multi-unit social housing complex in Mount Bridges. What is the role of the corporation, and given the public nature of it, does it need more transparency on its aspirations and how housing decisions are made?
I think that's a great question, but it's also a little bit tricky. I've been spending some time to try to find out minutes and boards to find out what actually the corporation does, what they're describing in their meetings, how they've made their decisions. And I've gone back and spent quite a bit of time trying to find information on minutes of meetings. So without any transparency, we don't know what's being discussed. We don't know of any issues that are coming up. And I believe there needs to be a whole lot more transparency. The minutes of those meetings should be published, and we should have full transparency, not only with the residents, but with the councillors as well.
All right, next we'll go to Brian.
Again, the question would be, is it public or private? If it's a public entity, then you're right. We should have access to everything. If it's private, which if these are the ones that are building the place in front of the arena, then I believe they're private. I did look into whether tenders were pulled with the London Construction Association for the building of that place. There was no tenders put in by the Caradoc Housing Corporation or Strathroy-Caradoc, which would lead me to believe that's a private entity, Caradoc.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Sure, since nobody else is jumping in.
If it is a private organization, how are we getting paid for the public land that is in front of the arena? That was actually donated land, which is now the municipality owns it. If there's a private corporation putting this on, are we getting some sort of land rent deal, or what is the deal with this?
Sorry, I wasn't sure if you were looking at me. I actually don't have answers for you on that, so I apologize. I don't apologize for not knowing, but I apologize for not being able to answer you on that. The one thing that I always wished with the first one that we were talking about is that it'd be nice to have, I don't know anything about this because I've only been on council for 4 years and none of this actually came up. So this has all been kind of set at us in the last little while. So we've been all doing a lot of research on it. But I think the best conversation would be to talk to people on the board because I think that's where we'd get our information, hopefully.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so government relations, very important in the municipality and different levels of government too. The relationship between the municipality and local members of the provincial and federal governments is a very important one. Do you know our MPP and MP and the role they might be able to play in getting local issues addressed and or funding for local projects? I think we're back to Brian, is that right? Okay, go ahead, Brian.
Yes, I do know our local MPP, I believe it's Bonnie McNaughton, yeah. So I went to actually high school with him. So I do believe he will help the community. I mean, he's rural from Newberry, so I would think he would help. I do believe he lives in the area, you know. I would think Leanne Root is the same way for, you know, projects. I don't know. I haven't dealt with them. I'd like to think they're here to help us.
Okay, anyone else? Yep, go ahead, Terry.
I think it's important for governments of all levels to communicate with each other and offer solutions to different problems that communities are experiencing. I haven't had any dealings with Monty McNaught myself, but I have had some dealings with Leanne, and she's been great dealing with things. So my belief is that all levels of government should work to help each other and help the communities that they're in. So I hope that in future we can continue to do that.
Go ahead, Sandi.
Thanks, Lorena. It's funny because it is such an important role to have when you're in municipal government, to be able to have a relationship with your MPP and your MP, because there are going to be times when, you know, like building a new arena, and we need to have a little bit of help looking for those grants and funds available, because there's always specific timing on all of these grants and funds. So having a really good relationship with them is really important.
Okay, thank you, Sandi. I think we have time for one more question.
All right, and I believe we are at Sheri. All right, I got it right. So we'll go to recreational facilities. Strathroy-Caradoc doesn't seem to have that one attraction that brings people to the municipality. We will have a new hotel ready for them soon. There are hockey tournaments, soccer events, the hometown festival, and the downtown market. But do you think we need to build on something like the downtown market or better advertise it to the outside community? Or do we need another showstopper type event?
That's a great question. There's so many different elements to that. I can't even comment to what a showstopper would be. I think that there's so many other things that need to be looked at first before funds are spent in another direction that way. The downtown market gets a lot of advertising all throughout Mount Bridges and area, and including in Strathroy, and it's offered for a longer extended period of time as well, which is really great for everybody that's trying to sell off like their farm produce and everything. There's so many other areas I think that we could still look at before like bigger venues happen versus, like we still have the Mount Bridges Arena and everything else that needs to be a consideration, I think.
All right, thank you. Next up, we'll have Terry.
So before living in Mount Bridges, I lived in a community where we had two so-called showstopper events. One was a Busker Fest and one was a Cactus Fest, named for the town itself. Great events for the community, great events for attracting visitors to your town. And I think that with the pandemic being as it is right now, I think that we had a fun fair in Mount Bridges not too long ago. And the amount of people that showed up for this fun fair showed that there is support for events such as that, and that the community would definitely get involved if we came up with something for them.
All right, thank you. Brian?
I guess what I would say is I'm not too sure if the municipality has to actually be the one that spearheads it. Maybe the municipality just has to lend its support or a venue or a building and let our local clubs, which are very good at doing things like this, the Lions of this, that, you know, whether it be a hockey club that wants to have a dance or, you know, something along those lines.
All right, thank you. Greg?
I'd like to just say that the Lions Club has done a great job with just art in the park that they just did recently. But not only that, one of the biggest drawbacks that some of the clubs have is looking at the rental costs of the different facilities and what facilities are available. Lately, with the Caradoc Community Center being taken for COVID vaccinations, it's been very difficult, and the Lions have had to look for other places to hold their events. That's why they're renting their own or developing their own building. I think we need to support our groups, and if we support them properly, they will bring more events.
All right, Sheri?
The community fest that actually was put on in Mount Bridges is supported by the Mount Bridges Business Association. They are the ones that also put on our Christmas events and stuff like that. So by them working with that in the community, it's all the businesses within the community too that help to put back to that. I ran a lot of the stuff that went on at the school as far as like free community event for all the kids to be able to partake and enjoy, and then supported the Optimists by allowing them to do the barbecue out in front of the school.
All right, Sandi?
Thank you. One huge showstopper is always fun because you know I love hometown hockey. But I guess what I love about the municipality is that each community within it holds their own, like the Christmas event in Mount Bridges, which is amazing. I mean, Strathroy has its market. We have art in the park, the Lions, the Legion. It goes on and on and on. And we do so many incredible things. I would hate to put my thumb on that and say, don't do that while we just do big things. No, we have to do all the small, individual, amazing things that creates the community as a whole.
All right, thank you very much. Those were the questions, and now we'll move to closing statements, and we'll go in the opposite direction this time, starting with Greg.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this debate. I hope you've got a feel for each of the candidates who are running. I see the next 4 years as incredibly important, especially with the implementation of the new official plan coming up. In the end, it's not about an individual, but the team you would like to represent you in council. The team should be able to collaborate and have the skills to make the right decisions while having enough forethought to see what those decisions will mean for the municipality after they're implemented. I hope I've demonstrated enough of these qualities that you will include me as a part of the team, and that will, as part of the team that you will choose next month when you vote.
Thank you, and we'll go to Terry.
Thanks for watching tonight, and I get asked this question all the time: why am I running for council? The reason I'm running is I like to be involved in the community. I want to have a part in the growth of the community that we live in, and I think it's important for everybody to get involved in different things in their community as well. So if you take the opportunity to vote for me, I won't let you down, and I look forward to serving you as a Ward 2 councillor. Thank you.
Thank you, and Dale.
Yeah, thank you for watching tonight. You know, I'm for Mount Bridges. I'm for the farmers. Let's keep Mount Bridges that special place that it is. Keep a good sense of community, and vote for me. Thanks.
Thank you. And now we'll go to Sandi.
Thank you. You know, I am just really excited for the next 4 years because there's a lot of things coming up. I've got kids aged 31, 26, and 16, and before you all look at me like I'm a crazy person, it actually really works well. So I look at the municipality and each of the communities, and especially Mount Bridges in the rural areas, as something that's really important to me because I'm looking at things where my kids need to be or where they're going to be in the next 5, 10, 15 years. And it's, you know, it means everything. I am trustworthy, I'm honest, I'm very approachable, and I have worked my butt off, and I will continue to do that for the next 4 years. So I would love it if you could vote for me.
Thank you very much. Now we'll hear from Sheri.
Thank you for this opportunity tonight. Thank you for listening and, trying to gauge what works best for you. You are the one that is the voter. You are the one that lives in the community, and that, if you want to reach out, you can reach out anytime. I'm hoping that I have gained your trust, and let me be a voice for you. Let me be the advocate that will help to pull your ideas forward and to help bring everything together.
Thank you very much. And finally, we'll hear from Brian.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the monitors and Rogers TV and My FM for doing this for us. And of course, my other people running here. Thank you. Yeah, candidates, that's what I was trying to get out. Thank you. I really am truly and just a pretty straightforward guy. I really say what I mean and I mean what I say. I'm approachable. Somewhat. Some people say I'm not, but I really am. I'll give you my number. You can come to my farm. We can talk. We can go forward, do from there. I really am for the rural side of this thing, and it's not that I don't want to work with Strathroy at all, but really and truly, I want to see our side of the place get what it needs and what it should have. I'd like you to vote for me. I know you might need a hand voting because it is all phone in or by mail. So if you do, get a hold of me, or I'm sure get a hold of one of the other candidates, and we can walk you through the process. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you all very much for joining us today. And that's Brian, Sheri, Sandi, Dale, Terry, and Greg. It's not easy to come forward and, run for municipal council. It takes a lot of hard work and takes a lot of your time. So we do appreciate it. We also thank Rogers TV for this opportunity and Strathroy United Soccer Club for the venue. This debate, as mentioned, will be broadcast starting September 26th on Rogers TV and will be available on YouTube 24/7, basically. Thanks to Chris Soares for organizing all of these debates. There have been 4. It was a lot of hard work. He did a great job. On behalf of my co-moderator, Chris Garreau, and myself, thank you so much for watching.